Big lawsuit getting lots of attention here in Los Angeles involving a soap opera star suing a production company and two company executives over alleged sexual harassment, discrimination, retaliation, and wrongful termination. The lawsuit involves actress Arianne Zucker, best known for her role as Nicole Walker on the long-running NBC soap opera Days of Our Lives. Let's bring in prominent Los Angeles attorney Anahita Sedaghatfar, attorney and legal commentator on the major networks and a familiar voice and name here on 790 KABC. Anahita, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thank you for having me again, Frank. It's been quite some time, but it's always a privilege and honor to be on your show.
Likewise, thank you very much for taking our call here, and you're getting a lot of attention here on this big lawsuit filed here in Los Angeles by you. And tell us about take it from the top and tell us about the case that's been filed here today.
Yeah, so we filed a lawsuit on behalf of veteran Days of Our Lives actress Arianne Zucker yesterday in the Los Angeles Superior Court, as you mentioned, against the owners of the show, Corday Productions, Ken Corday, and the ousted executive producer, Alar. And we've alleged various causes of action, but the essential part of our claim is that Ms. Zucker and various other women on set at Days of Our Lives were subjected to abuse and sexual harassment at the hands of Alar. And I think what makes this case, Frank, that much more egregious is the fact that, as we've alleged in the lawsuit, the owners of Days of Our Lives were well aware that Mr. Alar had been engaging in this type of misconduct, this type of sexual harassment, because various other prominent actresses had lodged complaints against Mr. Alar going back for years. One of the women who's actually very publicly spoken out about her complaints about Mr. Alar is Lisa Rinna, an actress you and I both know. She's come out publicly and she stated that she lodged complaints about Mr. Alar's behavior to the production company and that essentially her complaints fell on deaf ears. And so we've alleged in the lawsuit that the company condoned and permitted Mr. Alar to continue his misconduct for years.
I'm there live with attorney Anahita Sedaghatfar here in Century City, and it sounds like the biggest lawsuit since really coming out of the pandemic. Of course, the MeToo movement started, it's hard to believe, in 2017 in response to the reports about what was happening with Harvey Weinstein and so forth. Tell us about how all this has played out. Obviously, sexual harassment and sexual abuse in the workplace is still happening. Are you seeing a pickup as far as legal activity once again?
Well, Frank, I was a very strong supporter of the MeToo movement. If you can believe, that was in 2018. And it was a time for a reckoning where I think we all as a society kind of stood up and said that we will no longer tolerate this knee-jerk reaction of victim blaming women when they complained of sexual harassment. We stood up and we said we're no longer going to call these women liars. We're no longer going to tolerate retaliation and punishing women who speak out about the abuse that they've endured, that we will no longer blackball women in certain industries, specifically in the industry of Hollywood here in Los Angeles. And so, I would say I think we've made many strides, and certainly the movement transformed the way we view sexual harassment and gender discrimination cases. But as you can see here in the case that my office just filed on behalf of Ms. Zucker, we still have a long way to go. These incidents of abuse of power in all walks of life, by the way, Frank, not just in the Hollywood arena, but in all walks of life. I mean, it's continuing. And it's still, we have a long path. We have to continue to file these lawsuits and hold these companies that condone this type of behavior and the individuals who engage in this type of behavior accountable. And that is what I've done for years, and I'll continue to do so in this case.
On the Air Live with attorney Anahita Sedaghatfar. And how is it supposed to work when situations like this come up? The employee encouraged to go to HR, right? What is your guidance when people are dealing with these situations?
Absolutely, Frank. My guidance would be to immediately go to the Human Resource Department if your employer has one. Go and lodge your complaints. Put your complaints in writing. You can send an email to the powers that be. If you don't have an HR department, you can go to your supervisor, your boss. If you don't feel comfortable going to your supervisor or boss, you can always contact a civil rights attorney who will assist you in making sure that your complaints are heard and remedied. There's the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which is a governmental entity that also assists with victims that have complaints against their employers for not just sexual harassment, but all kinds of discrimination claims. So my guidance would be to definitely make sure that you let your complaints be known, and that if nothing is being done to remedy the situation, to seek legal guidance.
All right. What if there is no HR department? If I recall, I read that was the case in what we were just talking about here, right?
Yes, and so as I indicated, if your company doesn't have an HR department, then you can go to your supervisor, your boss, the owner of the company, and if you are still not comfortable doing that, if those are the individuals that might be perpetrating the harassment upon you, then you have every right to contact an attorney that will assist you and make sure that your complaints are heard and that your complaints are remedied.
All right, and as you mentioned, obviously this case getting a lot of attention here in the Hollywood press, Soap Opera Digest, all the entertainment outlets are reporting about this. But as you say, this incidents like this, as we've seen in the past, occur not just in the entertainment industry, but in all industries. Are you able to tell us? Are you getting more cases these days now that the courts are pretty much back to normal, coming out of the pandemic and all that?
Yes, I hate to say it, but the answer to that question is yes. I'm sure, like many other civil rights attorneys and attorneys that handle these employment cases, I'm getting a multitude of cases and individuals that are calling me complaining of abuse that they're enduring at work. And I think, the COVID pandemic certainly put a halt on the legal process. Many cases were stayed for quite some time and put on hold, but now, as the court systems have sort of gone back to normal, we're seeing that these cases are picking up again, and we're, resuming jury trials. I've had 2 jury trials again since the COVID pandemic. Arbitrations are being conducted again, and like I said, unfortunately, we are not seeing a drop in these types of cases despite the MeToo movement, despite many women feeling like they have a voice. We still have a long way to go.
Anahita Sedaghatfar, prominent attorney and legal commentator on the major networks and right here on 790 KABC with the law firm Anahita Sedaghatfar in Century City. Anahita, thank you very much for joining us live with that important information and about the case here today on 790 KABC.
Thank you so much, Frank. It was my pleasure.